Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. So what I want to do is just take a quick look at the different features that OneDrive for Business has and how it can benefit you and users in your organization. So we're going to go over the different features of OneDrive. Then we move over to some sharing and how sharing works within the organization, whether internal or external. So we're going to go ahead and actually browse the cloud version. I'm going to show you how it looks on the web. And then we're going to come back and see how it looks on the desktop. So I'm going to actually go ahead and Google Office login. That's usually the easiest way to find it. So we're going to go sign in. Actually, we have a fictitious user named Katie that we're using for this demo. So I'm going to go ahead and log in with her credentials.
So with this, Katie can basically be anywhere, type in her email address and password, and she gains access.
So as you can see, we're presented the dashboard here, or Katie's presented in this case with a dashboard. So this dashboard really gives you a quick overview of the shortcuts to the applications that you have access to or the user has access to, as well as a list of the last 5 or 6 documents that were recently worked on. All right, so going back to OneDrive for Business, we're going to scroll back up here. We're actually going to go ahead and browse our OneDrive. So once we click that, we'll be presented with a listing of all the files that we have stored in our our cloud storage. So as you can see here, we got our familiar look. So if you ever use Dropbox or Google Drive, you'll be very familiar with this interface where everything is saved in the cloud, and I will show you how it integrates locally to your desktop. So with every file, you actually get, of course, the file name. The last time it was modified, the person who modified it, size, and who it's being shared with. And we'll come back to this shared column later on in the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and actually open a file here. So if I go ahead and click, I'm going to play with the Japan Revenue Excel spreadsheet. Once I click that, what you see here is actually Excel on the web. So this is the web version of Excel that runs in the browser. That's not running on the desktop, that's purely in the browser. So this application is really accessible from anywhere in the world, whether you're at an airport or a coffee shop, if you're handing out at Starbucks and borrowing a PC, for example, you can always log in and use those applications. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do a quick editing of this file. And once you go into the edit mode, you actually, as you can see, you have a pretty functional Excel application. So everything is running in the cloud, there's nothing installed. Now the cool thing is, this file here is synced to my OneDrive on the desktop. So if we go back to our Windows Explorer, and I'm going to browse to OneDrive for Business like Scott mentioned earlier, these are all the listings of the file. And if we go, and I'm just going to pull up the listing here and go back to my Windows Explorer locally on the desktop. As you can see, it's an exact replica of the file, both in the cloud and locally. So any changes I make in the cloud to the web browser will be reflected locally on my desktop.
And vice versa. So if you're working on a file on your desktop and you don't have internet connection or the internet goes down, your files are still safe on your desktop. And when the internet connection comes up, it will then synchronize and move it back up to the cloud.
So what I'd like to do is just go through a quick scenario of where Katie works on a file locally on her desktop on a Friday afternoon. Then she goes away for the weekend, remembers that she has to modify something, and come back on Monday and see those modifications synced. So I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to close these windows. Excel on the desktop. So as you can see here, the cool thing about the integration with Office 2016 is that it keeps track of all the files that you worked on recently, today, yesterday, and last week. So you really don't have to go and look through folders and file names to find what you worked on recently. So I'm going to go back to that Japan file again. I'm going to go ahead and open it. And here we are. So I'm going to make some changes here. So I'm going to formula here, a very simple formula. So sum, and add these 2 columns here. And there's the number. So say this is Friday afternoon, we're done, we're ready to go off on the weekend. I'm going to save it and close the file. So Katie leaves her laptop at home, goes to the cottage, to her friend's cottage on a Saturday afternoon. Then she remembers that formula was wrong or was in the wrong place. And she doesn't have access to her work computer. Actually, all she has to do is borrow a computer with a browser and an internet connection. So we're going to assume that this is her friend's PC, I'm going to actually go back to Google Chrome this time. And assume that's the board laptop. So I'm going to go back in and Google Office login again. I'm going to log back in.
And then Katie types in her email address, types in her password, and she has instant access to all of her corporate Office 365 applications and all of her files.
So because she worked on that file, on the last file she worked on that week, or the last time she logged in, that file is still listed on top. So you can go ahead and click on it and pull it up through the Excel browser application. And there is a change that she did on the desktop. So she's going to go ahead and actually edit the spreadsheet and add another formula under it. So I'm going to go and we'll add these two here. Now the cool thing about this, what you'll notice in the browser application, that there's no save button. So don't go looking for the save button because there isn't any. It's actually, it saves live as you do the changes. So once you do the change and you're done, you just close that file. So we're going to go ahead and close it, and then she's done for the change that she had to do. She's going to go sign out from her friend's laptop, and now it's all done. Now she's going to close that. And going back to the office on Monday morning, she's actually going to pull up that spreadsheet again because she has to do a little bit more work on it. So pulling it up on the desktop, and she clicks it. And she gets a notification saying that there's a newer version of this file. She's going to go reopen documents. Yes. And there is the changes. So these are the changes synced back from the Excel on the web back to her desktop application. So I'm going to go browse over to OneDrive one more time. So we're going to stick with the Japan file that we've been working with. So say Katie actually wants to share this file with one of her colleagues. So it's just a matter of clicking on the file and clicking on the listing of files, of users that are shared. So if you just see this list here, these are actually all the people that can view this file. Now the cool thing is they can view it, but they cannot edit it because she hasn't explicitly given them access to edit it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add somebody. I'm going to invite someone to edit this file. And I'm just going to click on share. And of course, you always want to make sure that it requires sign-in, so it's not an anonymous login. And I'm going to give her edit access because you can always give view access only. I'm going to give her edit access. I'm going to share it. Now that email went off to that user's inbox to tell them that Katie has shared this file with them. And there's a notification for the email that went out. Now I'd like to show you how you can change it. So the cool thing about this is it's very fluid. So if you give somebody access to edit or view a file, you can always go back and change it later. So for example, if we pick the user Ann Wallace here, as you can see, she only has access to view it. So I'm just going to go allow edit, and instantly now she's allowed to edit the file. And last but not least, just to give you a quick overview of how I can revoke. So if somebody changed positions, or they left the company, or they don't need access to a certain confidential file, for example, you can just go to their name and say stop sharing. And it's really that simple to pull files from other people. So that way your file it's protected, it's not floating in somebody's mailbox, there are no copies being made. So that's just an overview of sharing. And last but not least, I want to go over the version history with you. So the cool thing about OneDrive for Business has a built-in ability to keep versions. So I'm sure we're all experienced with the different versions of files floating back and forth through email. You start with a version 0.1, then you end up at version 7 or 8.5, and you have no idea where these changes went or what version they were attached to. So what Microsoft did, actually, they attach version into every file. So every time you create a file, makes a change, it actually saves as a version number that you can actually roll back to at any point in time. So if we take that Japan file and we just select it and highlight it and click on version history, and I'll be presented with all the changes that were made. So these are all the changes that were made to this file since the beginning from a few days ago. As you can see, it's by time until the changes we made just now. So I can actually go back to any version and click restore, or view the change, or delete that version completely if there are changes that you don't want to be reverted to. So that's our version. And actually, I just want to give Chad a chance to share with you how OneDrive for Business actually helped us out in Endeavour. So Chad Smith is our lead cloud consultant over at the Halifax office. And he's been involved very heavily with Office 365, just like I am. And we've been using OneDrive for Business back and forth between the Mississauga office and the Halifax office very heavily. So I'd like him to just jump in and give us an idea of how we use it heavily within Endeavour Solutions. Chad?
Yeah. Thanks. Hope everybody can hear me okay. So yeah, we actually use OneDrive for Business for a lot of stuff. So as most of our customers probably know, where we have multiple locations and multiple offices, a lot of times we have consultants and people from different offices working on the same projects. And there's always documents to share back and forth. So one of the very easy things and the cool things now that we're using, we can take, for example, a spreadsheet and we had that shared with multiple people. One of the really cool things that we can do now, we can have multiple people in there editing the same document at the same time, which becomes extremely, extremely powerful for us. As well, when we share files back and forth now, we're not sending actual files, we're sending links to the documents themselves. And while I'm talking here, can you show how the link would come out?
Yeah.
In an email, because we can actually email the links back and forth now for these files. So one file that we have to send every week internally here at Endeavour is our planning file. We actually plan for the weeks ahead of time so that we know what we're doing and stuff like that. And we all send those into a central location. Before, so you guys can imagine, we'd have people emailing in this huge Excel spreadsheet to one or two or four different people. So there's hundreds of these files going all over the place. Now what we're doing is, because we have OneDrive, the moment that I open up my email and I go to attach that file to the email, it automatically knows that everybody in my email is a member of the organization, and it wants to attach a cloud version. As you can see what Water's showing you right there, you're going to see this cloud version of this file. When we attach that, it's actually not attaching the whole file. It's just a link to the file in OneDrive. Now, what does that mean to you guys as an organization? Because I know I'm talking a whole bunch of tech stuff. But what that means is you actually have less traffic. You have less stuff sitting in your email. You're taking up less space. Your email works faster. And you don't have the security risk of sending these files all over the place with no control. We actually start controlling the documents a little bit more and controlling them as a company, because these are your company's assets. So, I know I've been talking a lot about the benefits of having the OneDrive and stuff like that, but when we take Office 365 and we take the desktop portion of the applications and we tie them in with the web portions and we tie them in with all the cool technology that Microsoft has given us, this becomes an extremely powerful protective tool that ends up saving, well, I haven't seen a company yet that hasn't been able to save money with it. So, yeah, I hope that helps you guys. I'll throw it back to you now, Wada and Scott.
Thank you, Chad. Appreciate that. For additional questions, you can reach out to Wada. His contact information is also on the Endeavour365 website, as is Chad's, and on the Endeavour website. He can assist with additional demos and discussions. We have a 90-day trial that we can provide you with, and talk more about the migration methodology in migrating your emails and the zero downtime promise.